SolSpot. Welcome to the SolSpot Collective with your host, Lara Bell.
We are here to dig into all things creative
and urban muse.
Don't forget to be happy. Sometimes we find ourselves so hungry to share our art that we forget about the happiness that we feel when we're in the flow of our art.
SolSpot. This is the SolSpot Collective podcast.
Hello and welcome to SolSpot Collective, episode number 4.
Yes, 4. I'm very excited about this episode. We are going to be talking about a classical path, bringing back Dreamer's Delight. If we remember, Dreamer's Delight is an interview segment focused on creatives and entrepreneurs who took a dream, designed a plan, and then brought it to fruition, to full life. And so our dreamer that we have with us today is Carlos Simon. Carlos is a musical composer who received his doctorate of musical arts at the University of Michigan last year. Was it 2016?
Yeah, it was this year actually. I graduated in April, 28th. Exactly.
Congratulations!
Awesome.
Thank you.
You got to wear the puffy hat.
I did. Nice and suede, nice little hat with my tassel and everything. So.
Well, amazing. Welcome to SolSpot Collective, Carlos. We are so happy to have you.
I'm just happy to be here talking to you.
Yeah, so one of the reasons that we were so interested in speaking with you is because I don't think that your particular musical journey is showcased enough. A lot of times we hear about the record deal or, other musical paths, but classical or musical composition is not a path that I think we talk about enough, but should definitely be shared. So one of the things that we wanted to talk to you about, or how we wanted to get started, is to say, when did your journey with music begin? How did you land on musical composition as your destination?
Yeah, well, really it started in church. My father is a pastor. Started his church in 1996, from scratch. Didn't really have many people at all, and that included the music department. Didn't have anybody to play the piano or anyone to pick up music for Sunday, and so I was naturally drafted to play the piano. I've always grown up seeing my uncles and my aunts play an instrument or sing, because I come from a very musical family. Everyone in my family does something in church. Church is the center of life in my family. And so when my father started his church, it was natural for me to gravitate toward the organ and piano. And while I was practicing, my mom and the dad, they noticed that I would just make up stuff, make up sections and songs that they would be singing all the time. And they just encouraged me to write songs for the group, the ensemble, vocal ensemble that was there. Small group, 20 people. And I just kind of figured out things. I didn't have anyone teaching me how to compose at that time. It was just more instinctive, just following my instincts, if you will. And so it wasn't until, I guess, high school and college that I really started formal study. But, between then, I was always listening to classical music, like Beethoven. And I remember my grandmother buying me a box set of CDs of all Beethoven sonatas, and just listening to those pieces and just being inspired. It's like, oh my God, like, am I ever going to be able to play like this? And so, I didn't really think that black people were doing classical music like that. I thought it was always like a genre for a certain ethnicity, if you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean.
It wasn't until later that I realized that, hey, I can probably do this and enjoy it. So that really starts in the church, my musical beginnings. I was playing piano, playing organ, and composing just a little bit.
So you mentioned a good point, that in your field, there probably is there a low number of African American composers? And if so, how does that affect you?
Yeah, well, I mean, this field is like a minority of a minority. You know, first of all, there aren't a whole lot of composers. So I mean, it's always interesting to hear what people say when they ask me what I do, and I say I'm a composer. It's like, oh, really? I've never met a composer before. Or there's always some intrigue. And then there aren't many African American composers. I guess it's a good thing and a bad thing. Bad thing is that we aren't many of us to tell the story, and it's sort of frustrating and disparaging, because culture is so rich, and you need people to tell the story of how this culture is so amazing.
Yeah, I think even now we hear a lot about representation, whether it be on television or in any other area, even in medicine or other areas. Why do you think that's important in the world of composition?
African American culture, to me, it's so rich and just amazing, and I think I feel an obligation, if you will, to document and to express my love for this culture, and just kind of make people aware of what's happening through our music. You'd be surprised at how African American culture is seen as a monolith. All black people are the same. They do all the same things.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There isn't an awareness of the nuances of our culture. And so what I've tried to do is just kind of to show how special and how unique the experience is. One, just like being in a black church and experiencing how rich that musical experience is, the spontaneity, the joy, and the energy through my music. It's representation. And that's just one example, but there are many others. And that's just been my motto as of late, just to kind of express the joy and the craft of composition.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I love that the way you framed it up, an artistic obligation. When I think about growing up as a kid, I think about watching The Cosby Show, where I had a chance to be exposed to different avenues of art in the African American community. And it feels sometimes that we get away from that, and it's only one vein that is celebrated. So to hear someone understand the artistic obligation and to want to enlighten people and want to engage people in different parts and avenues of our rich history and culture, I think that's beautiful. And I know you mentioned earlier that, music composition was kind of intrinsic and innate. You kind of gravitated towards it naturally. Along your path, did you experience any guidance? Did you have any mentors or anything like that?
Yeah, well, first, my uncles and aunts were huge mentors of mine. They lived in Virginia, and of course I was in Atlanta. So I would, during Thanksgiving and Christmas, we would go visit them. And I would be so excited just to kind of see them and hear them play, because it was so inspiring, because they were amazing. They didn't have any training or anything like that, but the things that they could do was just incredible, and it just blew my mind every time I would go and hear them play and sing. And they would do, they would help me, show me a few things, and I would go back and expand on that and try to figure out what they did and remember, record everything that they did, and just kind of go back and listen to that and use it as inspiration. So that's the very beginning. And as I did more formal training and start studying orchestral music and more concert style music, I've been really fortunate to have really great teachers who believed in my gift and seeing something in me that I didn't necessarily see myself. Mm-hmm. And they just encouraged me to use those influences that I grew up with, in church and in African American culture, and just to kind of combine what I've been learning with Beethoven and Mozart, Stravinsky, and those techniques, along with those traditions that come with the African American church, which I was so accustomed to. So those things, I can't be. I'm so grateful for that, because you have some teachers, I've heard, they force their students to a certain mold, and they in other words, they create mini me's of themselves.
Right.
And they really don't get a chance to hear, what the real artist sounds like. And so I've been really fortunate to have teachers who have really inspired me and pushed me to be an individual artist, and just to kind of express myself in a way that is unique.
So what are some of the challenges, and as you are forging your path in your own individual expression, what have been some of the challenges that you've experienced along the way?
Yeah. Well, artistically, one of the challenges for me is that I be sincere and genuine in my artistic output, and not let, even though I'm like using African American culture as a resource, I'm very careful as to not to make it to mock, the culture, the caricature, and to make it seem like I'm not being serious with it. So I do want it to be. I want people to be serious about what I have to say, and not mocking it. So that's one of the problems that not problems. I guess it's a good problem, because it forces me to really think and to dig deep, and to really, really just, soak up everything, to think.
Yeah.
So that's a problem in particular, or concern that I've struggled, rather, that I've had to kind of deal with as an artist.
I think that's a very valid and sincere concern. You do oftentimes see, like you mentioned before, African American culture is considered to just be this very one-sided thing, and now as we have more representation, you get to see different layers of Black personality, Black culture, different, but it is still growing. So I definitely respect what you're saying. Our last question for you. We really have enjoyed having you here. But our last question for you is what is your message for our dreamers? You are a professor at Spelman College, so you are already molding young minds. What is the message that you have for our audience, for those who are trying to accomplish their dreams, for those youth that are interested in pursuing their own musical composition path? What encouragement do you have for them?
Well, I would say, at the very beginning, I had a lot of people tell me, not to do what I'm doing, not to be a composer, not to pursue music as a career, because it just didn't make any money. You should do business, and you should be a lawyer, you should be a doctor. I've had a lot of people just to kind of put their own dream in me, if you will, trying to make me be something that I wasn't, that I didn't want to do. And, for a minute, I started believing it, and, I was miserable. And so if I had to tell someone anyway, a dreamer, is that, just make your own goals, and follow them, and your own expectations. And even in this field of composition, there are, check boxes or things, a bucket list of items that you must do. You gotta have to get a doctorate. You gotta go have a certain performance and have a certain performer play a piece or whatever. Yeah, but even that can be stifling. I've always tried to adhere to my instincts and my own personal ambitions, and realizing that there's something, I represent something much larger, and it's much more than myself, what I'm doing. It's about the greater good of what's to come, of pursuing something that is much, much, much higher than I am, and will succeed me long after I'm gone.
That's it.
Amen.
That's it.
Go ahead,
That is
Carlos.
it. Art lives forever.
The artist never dies.
Never. And that, when you talk about artistic obligation, that's why it's so important, because what you put out, the energy, everything that you put out into your work now as a true artist, as an authentic, genuine artist, it lives forever.
Yes.
That's beautiful.
We are so happy for you, and we're grateful that you took this time with us today.
Where can we find more information about you? Where can we get information? Where can people follow you? Do you have any information available online?
And to that, we were listening to one of your bodies of work on SoundCloud before we spoke. Great Thou Art Jehovah, I believe. It's beautiful. So did want to tell you that too, that we'll probably be playing a little snippet of that as well. But yes, where can we find out more about your music?
You can go to my website, coliversimon.com. You can follow me on Instagram at SimonC1. Or you can follow me on Twitter at SimonCarlos1. And you can also look out for my latest album, which will be released in April 2018.
All right.
It's my ancestors' gift. And the whole inspiration for the album is again, using African American themes and writing music that is based on, issues and concerns that come up in African American culture. So, I have a piece on there that's dedicated to those who've been slain by police brutality. I have a piece called White Only, Colored Only, which takes snippets of George Wallace, which is an infamous governor of Alabama in the 60s who encouraged segregation, or the jazz piece. And, I have a lot of different pieces on there, which many different styles. So encourage you all to kind of be on the lookout for that. It will be released again in April of 2018.
Wonderful. We can't wait to check it out. Can't wait. All right. So, Carlos, we want to just let you know that we are happy for you, and that we here at SolSpot Collective, we fully encourage and support your dreams and your creative aspirations. And we're here to network with you anytime that you want to use us or leverage our resource.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to the SolSpot Collective, hosted by Urban Muse and Lara Bell. Follow the SolSpot Collective on Instagram at SolSpot Collective. That's SOL Spot Collective. And on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, search SolSpot Collective. That's SOL Spot Collective. SolSpot, SolSpot, SolSpot.